Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of No Huddle with Zach Arndt. And today we're going to be taking a look at the defending national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs, led by head coach Kirby Smart, offensive coordinator Todd Monken, new co-defensive coordinators Will Muschamp and Glenn Skolman. Georgia lost former defensive coordinator Dan Lannon, but they bring in Glenn Skolman and Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp has that head coach experience. Glenn Skolman, one of the best recruiters in the nation, has coached linebackers at Georgia for the last several seasons. Some key players on Georgia include quarterback Stetson Bennett, tight end Brock Bowers, and defensive tackle Jalen Carter. Stetson Bennett last year averaged 10 yards per pass and threw about 29 touchdowns compared to just 7 interceptions. Very solid. Tight end Brock Bowers, a big-time freshman season for him. 56 catches, 882 yards, 13 receiving touchdowns. D lineman Jalen Carter, probably the best interior D lineman in the country. He might have been the best D lineman on that national championship team just a season ago. The former 5-star had 37 total tackles last year, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks. Some key losses were Jamari Saylor, the left tackle, rock solid, big human being on the O-line. He got drafted by the Chargers. Defensive tackle Jordan Davis, probably the best run stopper in all of college football last year. But more importantly, they're going to lose leadership with Jordan Davis along with linebacker Nakobe Dean, who won the Butkus Award just a season ago and was the leader of that defense, the best in the country. They also lose guys like Louis Sean, Devontae Wyatt, Channing Tindall, Quay Walker. Those are going to be really important guys to replace. Channing Tindall, Quay Walker, and Nakobe Dean. That trio of linebackers was the best in the nation. They're going to have to bring in 3 new guys. But they do have a rising star on the O-line in Broderick James. He's going to probably step in at left tackle. He did start 4 games last year. He had some experience, so he has some experience heading into 2022. Kirby Smart in Georgia went out and signed 5 5-star recruits in 2022, led by D lineman Mikael Williams, 5-star athlete Malachi Starks, 5-star edge Marvin Jones Jr., and then a pair of 5-star corners in Jaheim Singletary and Dalen Everett. Taking a look at the depth chart, they bring back wide receivers Adonai Mitchell and Ladd McConkey. They lose Kearis Jackson comes back. He's replacing Jameer Burton, who they lost to Alabama. They have Arian Smith, Marcus Rosemary Jackson, and Dominique Blaylock. All guys that played last year. They have all these guys returning at wide receiver. As mentioned on the offensive line, Broderick James is going to have to step in at left tackle. They have Xavier Truss and Tate Ratledge stepping in at guard. Then they return center Cedric Van Pran and right tackle Warren McClendon, both up there with some of the best in the country at their respective positions. At tight end, Georgia probably has the best tight end room in the nation. Has a potential to be one of the best we've ever seen in Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington, and Eric Gilbert. Eric Gilbert, coming out of high school, was the best tight end recruit of all time. Brock Bowers had probably the best freshman season by a tight end in recent memory. Darnell Washington, big 6'7". He can block. He can run the deep routes. He can do just about anything. So Georgia has a trio of tight ends. All would probably be the best tight end on any other team. At quarterback, Stetson Bennett's probably going to win the starting job. But maybe by the end of the season, you see Carson Beck step in if Stetson Bennett struggles a little bit. At running back, they're going to have a running back by committee. I don't think one guy is really going to have the bulk of the carries. They have Kenny McIntosh, Kendall Milton, and then freshman Branson Robinson is a guy to keep an eye on. Big running back out of Madison, Mississippi. Shifting over to defense, they only have three returning starters on defense, and outside linebacker Nolan Smith, cornerback Keely Ringo, and safety Christopher Smith. Georgia might have the best safety pair in the SEC. Them and Alabama are right there. Georgia has Christopher Smith and Tyke Smith. Tyke Smith's going to have to step in for Louis Sean in the secondary. On the D-line, 2 new faces. You have Trammell Walther and Zion Logue. They'll go along with Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is not listed as a starter on here for last season as he was behind Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis. But he's obviously going to be the starter this year at defensive tackle. Inside linebacker, they have Jamin Dumas Johnson, Tresman Marshall, Smell Mondon Jr., and Ryan Davis. At star, they have William Poole and Javen Bullard, along with freshman Dalen Everett. Special teams, they returned Jack Poledzny and Brent Thorson. Stenson Bennett last year, the quarterback. He threw for 2,800 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. The returning running backs, Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton, combined for about 500 total yards on about an average of 5.2 yards per carry and a total of 4 touchdowns. On the receiving end, the leading receiver last season was tight end Brock Bowers. He had 882 yards, 15.5 yards per catch, with a crazy amount of 13 touchdowns as a true freshman tight end. And kicking, Jack Poledzny last year, the outstanding kicker, went 22 for 27 and scored a total of 137 points for the Georgia Bulldogs. Looking back at some important stats for Georgia last year, in field position, their offense was 9th in the nation thanks to that very good defense. Their offensive efficiency was 50%, which was good for 9th in the country. Defensive efficiency was 32%, number 1 in the nation. Explosive plays on offense, they were 4th in the country, and they were number 1 on defense and explosive plays allowed. Finishing drives, their defense ranked number 1. Then adjusted turnover margin, they were +4, which ranked 39th in the country. Then with the projected, they were 56th. Scoring offense last year, they averaged 38 points per game, which was good for 10th in the nation. They ran for about 190 yards per game, 36th ranked. 250 passing yards per game, which was good for 51st, and then a total of 440 yards per game, which was good for 26th ranked. Scoring defense, number 1 in the country, they only allowed 10 points per game, along with only 79 yards allowed per game on the ground, which was 2nd, along with 2nd for total defense and 270 yards per game. And they let up 190 passing yards per game, which was good for 13th in the country. And those stats were good for a 14-1 record, 8-0 in the SEC. They beat Michigan in the Orange Bowl in the semifinal, and then they beat Alabama in the national championship. Looking ahead to the 2022 schedule, they open up against former defensive coordinator Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks. That's a neutral site game in Atlanta. I think they'll win that game in a close one. Followed up by a win against Stanford, at South Carolina, and Kent State. There's 3 more wins in a row right there. They take a trip to Missouri. I think they'll win that game. Auburn and Vanderbilt come to town. Should be 2 easy wins for Georgia. Neutral site game versus Florida, going to be a tough game. I think they'll pull that one out though with a W, along with Tennessee coming to Athens, another W. And I think they'll finish the season 3 straight wins against Mississippi State, at Kentucky, and then Georgia Tech. I have them going 12-0, going to the SEC Championship to play Alabama. 2 trick games though early in the year for Georgia. A lot of new faces on defense, a lot of new players at skill positions on offense. The Georgia versus Oregon opening game, that could be a trick. But also at South Carolina, that's one to keep an eye on. South Carolina beat Georgia just a couple years ago. Remember, QB Spencer Rattler's going in there. Shane Beamer has that program on the rise. That could be a trick game for Georgia early in the year. They played Stanford before that. Maybe Georgia's a little down. Just come off a blowout win. Nothing serious. And then you go to South Carolina, a team playing with their head on fire. You just never know what can happen. So I have Georgia going 12-0 with only 2 trick games. I think they'll pass through their schedule fairly easily. Remember, they don't play LSU this year. They don't play Alabama. So I think 12-0 is a reasonable prediction for Georgia. That's going to do it for today's video, guys. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I hope you all have a great day. I'll catch you in the next one.